And that case we're talking about is the case of a Sundanese Christian woman who gave birth in prison after being sentenced to hang for autopsy, basically being Christian. Well, apparently she's going to be freed, at least one of her lawyers saying that today. This is a huge break in this story. The case of Maryam Ibrahim Ishtag sparked an outcry from Western governments and human rights groups after the judge sentenced her to death on May 15th. 12 days after the verdict, Ishtag gave birth to a daughter in the women's prison in Khartoum's twin city of Omdurman. Border Patrol agents, meantime, canceling flights scheduled to bring nearly 300 Central American migrants from South Texas to Southern California. It is unclear right now as to why today's flight from San Diego and El Centro were shelved, according to a spokesman for the Customs and Border Protection. U.S. border authorities have detained so far more than 39,000 adults and young children since October through May of this year. An official said the plans to fly the immigrants to California could still be reinstated. And over in Iraq, take a look at this. ISIS jihadists guiding traffic on the streets of Mosul today. Also, they are distributing copies of the Quran to passers-by. The city is about 225 miles northwest of Baghdad. It was captured by ISIS 2 weeks ago. Since then, the Sunni militants have continued to seize towns and border crossings across western Iraq. The crisis has also stoked fears of a full-blown civil war by the Shia-led government, and it appears that ISIS is now closer to its dream of carving out an Islamic State in the Middle East. Over the weekend, they also gained control of two key border crossings with Syria. But on the Sunday talk shows, namely this week on ABC, former Vice President Dick Cheney continues to bash the current administration for its lack of a firm response to the current crisis in Iraq. Cheney says we should be sending in what the Iraqi government wants, something like 20,000 troops, not just 300 military advisors.
With all due respect, John, I was a strong supporter then of going into Iraq. I'm a strong supporter now. Everybody knows what my position is. There's nothing to be argued about there. But if we spend our time debating what happened 11 or 12 years ago, we're going to miss the threat that is growing and that we do face.
Cheney also criticized Senator Rand Paul directly, calling Paul one of the isolationists back here at home. Paul, of course, has been a dove on Iraq, urging restraint. Today, the European Union is telling Russia to support the Ukrainian peace plan or face tougher sanctions. The peace plan includes a ceasefire to the ongoing fighting along the Russian and Ukrainian border. Over the weekend, the Washington Post reporting that Russia redeployed more troops to the Ukrainian border, including special forces units. U.S. officials say Russia is arming and training the pro-Russian separatist fighters. Also earlier today, all 28 EU leaders voiced support for that new peace plan.
And this support, which is in fact a symbol of solidarity for Ukraine, is definitely there.
Well, so far the European Union has banned the travel and frozen assets of 60 Russians, including people considered to be close associates of Vladimir Putin. Russia opposes the agreement and sees this as Western intrusion. Now, the threat of new sanctions comes after Washington pressed the EU on Friday to take more action against Russia.
Right now, Secretary of State John Kerry is in Baghdad pushing for stability in Iraq as it continues to clash with al-Qaeda-backed militants. During Kerry's meeting with the head of the Islamic Supreme Court, he warned all nations in the Gulf that there is no safety in funding groups like ISIS. Kerry also urged Iraqis to put aside their sectarian differences and encourage them to form a more inclusive government. After meeting with leaders of Iraqi Shiites community, Kerry also met with high-ranking Sunni officials. And Jen Psaki, a spokeswoman for the U.S. State Department, says they hope Kerry's visit promotes a government that represents all interests of Iraqis.
Well, back in the United States, jury selection has begun in the case against Jerry Sandusky. Sandusky is in a Pennsylvania courtroom today as lawyers search for 12 people to decide his fate. Sandusky is charged with 52 criminal counts for allegedly abusing players over 15 years. Several young men who claim Sandusky sexually abused them are expected to testify in court. Sandusky has denied these allegations.
And Chicago area hospitals are saying they haven't seen any differences in ER traffic since the rollout of Obamacare. That, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. Advocates for Obamacare said emergency room visits would decline as people signed up for Affordable Care Act, which in turn would lower healthcare costs. But so far, there is no evidence to prove that. A poll by the American College of Emergency Physicians shows that the emergency room visits have actually increased throughout America.